Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. Someone is asking about being more still in posture, correct posture. Best thing is to go to a yoga teacher and ask them to look at your posture and give you good asanas for opening the hips or whatever they say to improve your posture. So that's not my expertise. I'm barely sitting on a chair. How does one focus without making effort? What's wrong with effort? Why would you not want to make effort? Beats me. How does one make effort without trying to acquire or get somewhere in time? So where are you coming from with this? Well, there's nothing wrong with trying to acquire something. Like, um, I hope I get some lunch tomorrow. Like, maybe breakfast too. That'd be good. I wonder where this question's coming from. Well, let me guess. Desire is natural, and desire is necessary. And then, to some extent, Theravada Buddhism and Buddhism in general, I suppose, is a investigation and study of desire. So you have to figure out what desires are wholesome, what desires are unwholesome, what desires lead to peace, and what desires lead to an end of suffering, and what desires lead to suffering. So we make effort. If your stomach is saying, I got to go to the toilet, you go to the toilet. You make effort, and you're happy that that desire was fulfilled. So desire is natural. Um, so to be honest, I don't know where this question is coming from, but there can be a misunderstanding that all desire is wrong, first of all. And that's not true. You wouldn't be here if you didn't want to be more peaceful or whatever you want. So that's fine. Um, or that somehow all effort is wrong. Well, that wouldn't be Buddhism. So I guess you have to consider what effort leads to suffering and what effort leads to the end of suffering, quite simply. Um, so if you're, mm, how does one focus without making effort? Seems like a wrong question. If you want to focus, you make effort. So if I'm dull and sleepy and I'm doing this, I just have to pour more energy into my system. So I either stand up or I put cold water on my face or I energize my hara and I open up my chest and I do some pranayama and I pop my eyes open. That's all effort. But it doesn't have to be with any kind of ignorance. The effort is coming from clarity, from understanding energy, from vitalizing the body and the mind. And nothing wrong with that. But say with dullness, as an example, when I was struggling with that many, many years ago, and it wasn't just the dullness of tiredness, it was definitely defilement of some sort. I wanted to get rid of the dullness, and that was the air. I wanted to annihilate the dullness. I didn't want it there. And that's not intelligent. Where intelligence is saying, well, how does dullness work? And what do I need to do? And how do I need to focus? I'll try this, I'll try that. This doesn't work, that does work. And voila, you have a methodology for dullness. Um, how does one make effort without trying to acquire or get somewhere? We all want to be peaceful, right? I mean, we didn't come here to play poker. So, that's pretty natural. And we always want our hearts to be more open. That's really wholesome, I think. It's really a great desire. But how do you do it? To get to the open heart, do you suppress anger? Well, good luck. Suppress anger and you'll just feel more angry. So it's more a question of like how you do it. How do I how do I realize a peaceful heart? And how do I open the heart and realize a peaceful mind? And then the tanha comes in. The wrong understanding is getting rid of something or annihilating something or that kind of thing, or just trying to get something called samadhi or peace, and with no real understanding of a process. So if I want to be, like Ajahn Chah says to me, 5 years and you might be more peaceful. And because I was restless and didn't have a disciplined mind, I had all kinds of fears and desires. So I had to go through a process of understanding how the mind works, cause and effect. What are the causes which create a more peaceful mind? Oh, peaceful acceptance. Okay, Kanti Bharami. So that the whole idea of Bharami and developing character is part of the wisdom path. So I had to make effort to not to let's say speak kindly to my brothers, because I was young and conceited, and I'd get annoyed and angry and I'd want to say something horrible to one of my brothers. But there's a sense of honor and everyone else seems to be speaking nicely. So maybe I should speak nice. So I make effort to not speak wrongly. But that doesn't mean I'm suppressing. Does it? I'm not suppressing. I just make a choice to speak rightly and so on and so forth. So that doesn't really answer the question, probably because I don't understand the question. Does anyone have a question? That, or does whoever asked that question, do you want to ask the question? And then we'll all know who it was. Who asked the question? Or I could read something. I didn't want to put any more information in, and I'm running out of stories. I could talk about my auntie or someone. How about I read something then, if no one has any questions? And I read this last year. It's Rupert Spira's translation of the Shinshin Ming. I don't know if you remember. I read that. So why don't we make this a kind of contemplative reading? And perhaps the exercise could be the exercise of learning to listen with the heart rather than listen with intellect. That's a good way. And I really like readings which I don't understand. That come, but I know they're coming from a profound space. So I can read this. I've been reading it since I was this tall, kind of thing. Rather than obvious readings that we should be generous. Yeah. Okay, great. But something which is more enigmatic or has metaphors in it, which make me, what? Why did you say that? I find that really helpful for my own contemplation and my own sense of where am I at with this. So that's why I enjoy this kind of reading. If you don't, then this is a feeling like I don't want this. And Ben Yang Nie. I can get away with a lot with that teaching, can't I? But this is really a beautiful, again, like that piece of literature this morning. And this, Buddhism has a lot of really beautiful, beautiful literature in its poetry. Actually, I was actually asking Yom Vibun, does Thailand have a lot of beautiful Buddhist poetry? They must do. What Buddhist called? Did Luangpor Viradhammo, did he write poetry? Yeah. So, I mean, I don't have access to that, but there must be some really. The poetry is interesting because poetry is trying to speak to a more intuitive part of you, to the heart. So it kind of requires maybe this kind of listening capacity in any case. Let me just read the intro, a rendition of, so the translator of this particular rendition of Xin Ming, how do I say, the Chinese speakers? Anyway, you know what I mean. Um, Rupert Spira is a layperson. He's English, and his parents were very much into yoga, and they were into the Kashmiri Shaivite type of non-duality. So he has a background, family background. I think his Iyengar was one of his yoga teachers. But anyway, he's got a really rich background of spiritual practice. And he's a very famous lay teacher in England. He was a potter, very refined man, beautiful pottery. And so he did this particular translation. So let me just read that intro. Rupert Spira's rendition of the ancient Buddhist poem Shinshin Ming reveals a deeper resonance with the direct path. It is thought that Buddhism was introduced to China 2 millennia ago, likely by Silk Road traders. In the 5th or 6th century of the Christian era, Bodhidharma, a sage who had emigrated from India, founded the school known as Chan, from Sanskrit dhyana or meditation, and Chan in Pali is jhana. So you have dhyana, jhana, and Chan, all meaning meditation, which developed into Japanese Zen. Chan had been strongly influenced by the pre-existing Taoist tradition, and although commonly understood as belonging among the Mahayana schools, it also has much in common with Dzogchen, the so-called highest view of Tibetan Buddhism. So the forest tradition of Puru, now is the knowing, speaks very well with the Dzogchen tradition of Tibetan Buddhism. And I know Luangpor Amro. Yeah, he's a Luangpor. Ajahn Amro. We're all getting old. Ajahn Amro, I think, has done several retreats co-taught by a Dzogchen teacher. So like Tibetan Buddhism has a lot of schools, and Dzogchen is the kind of most direct. So I find it appealing too. Together, they form a Central Asian tradition distinct in many ways from traditional Mahayana Buddhism. This poem is attributed to Zheng known as the third patriarch of Chan. It is an expression of the innate perfection of the mind, which transcends all dualities. Rupert, finding resonance with the universal and timeless truth of Shinshin Ming, has reformulated it in his own terms. So for our Chinese scholars, you might object to this, but for example, the Chinese character for Tao appearing in the original poem had first been translated as the Great Way or the Way. In Rupert's version, it becomes variously peace and happiness, our essential being, and true nature. Rupert's intention is to simplify the language using familiar words and concepts in line with his understanding that what we all seek and have always sought is peace and happiness. And furthermore, that which prevents our becoming established in our true nature of peace, happiness, and love is the very effort and activity of the search, which takes us away from the source and is thus the cause of suffering. So here is the poem in Rupert's rendition. Again, listen with your heart, or not. To be at peace and content is not difficult for those who have no preferences. When likes and dislikes are not present, everything becomes clear and simple. Make the smallest distinction, however, and you will be exiled from the realm of eternal happiness, which is your home. If you wish to be happy and at peace, then hold no opinions for or against anyone or anything. To set up what you like against what you dislike is a conditioned habit of the mind. It is a recipe for unhappiness. When we allow the appearance of things to veil their reality, our innate peace and happiness is disturbed to no avail. Our essential being is perfect, like boundless space, which is complete in itself with nothing lacking. It is our rejection of what is present or our seeking of what is not present that determines whether or not we feel the peace and happiness that are our very nature. Do not lose yourself in experience, but do not turn away from any experience as well. Be free from all experience, but completely open to all experience, and your innate happiness will shine forth. Do not think that the activity of the mind is a problem, or that the cessation of its activity is necessary. To attempt to stop the mind's activity is itself the mind's activity. Neither lose yourself in the mind's activity, nor engage in the effort to still it, but simply be knowingly the witnessing presence of awareness, and your innate happiness will emerge from the background of experience. Your true nature of pure awareness transcends all experience, and yet is immanent within all experience. To assert or deny either aspect is therefore to miss the nature of reality. It is not possible to think of reality or to express it in words. To know the nature of reality, it is necessary to know the nature of one's own being, which lies behind all thinking and talking. We invest our happiness in changing things only because we have forgotten or ignored our being. If we want lasting peace and happiness, it is only necessary to return to one's being. Do not search for happiness, only cease allowing the thought, I don't want what is present, I want what is not present, to run your life. Again, do not search for happiness, only cease allowing the thought, I don't want what is present, I want what is not present, to run your life. The slightest like and dislike with respect to experience veils our innate happiness. Do not reject appearances in favor of awareness, for it is infinite awareness itself that shines in and as all appearances. When we stand knowingly as the presence of awareness, nothing can disturb us. And when a person or thing no longer disturbs us, we no longer see them as separate from us or as a source of happiness or suffering. When we no longer divide our experience into good and bad, right and wrong, desirable and undesirable, the personal self vanishes, for it is created and maintained only by resisting, holding, or seeking. In the absence of a separate subject of experience, the separate object or other dissolves, and their shared being is revealed as the experience of love or beauty. An object only seems such from the perspective of a separate subject of experience, and a separate subject of experience can only seem to exist in relation to an object. As such, both the subject and the object are in reality a single, infinite, and indivisible whole. Knowing this, we make no judgments, and neither prejudice nor opinion obscures our vision. To be established in peace and happiness is neither easy nor difficult. It is simply to know and feel oneself as the presence of awareness, with which all experience is known, in which all experience appears, and ultimately out of which all experience is made. For one whose life is determined by resistance, holding, and seeking, everything they do simply compounds their unhappiness. The more effort they make, the farther they are from happiness. Ultimately, even the desire for enlightenment is the desire for something other than what is, and is, as such, the very activity of suffering itself. If, on the other hand, we simply abide knowingly as the presence of awareness, there will be neither resistance nor seeking, and we will live free, undisturbed, and fulfilled. When our thoughts and feelings are governed by resistance, holding, and seeking, we no longer see things as they are. We make distinctions and judgments only because we overlook the unity of being that underlies all people and things, and as a result become upset and exhausted. Nothing of value comes from it. For one who is established in their true nature and, as a result, allows things to be as they are, the goal of life has already been fulfilled. Such a person seeks nothing, holds on to nothing, and resists nothing, and is therefore at peace and content. For one who is lost in their thoughts and feelings, life is a constant battle of resistance, holding, and seeking, and thus they are rarely at peace. Everyone's essential being is the same. It is only when our essential being is qualified by experience that distinctions between people arise and thus conflict begins. To seek our being with the mind is a mistake, for our being lies at the source of the mind. It can never be found as an object of the mind. Activity and inactivity, like and dislike, good and bad, right and wrong, gain and loss, all come from ignoring or overlooking the underlying unity of being, from which all people and things derive their temporary name and form. If we do not allow appearances to veil their reality, our innate peace and happiness will pervade all experience. If we do not resist what is present and seek what is not present, experience will lose its capacity to veil its reality. One who remains established in and as the presence of awareness will not lose their self in the content of experience, and as a result, peace and happiness will prevail. Such a one will not separate their self from any experience, and as such, love and beauty will shine in their experience. It is our likes and dislikes which confer independent existence on people and things, and as a result, our shared being is overlooked. To understand this is to be free from experience, even in the midst of experience itself. In this condition, preferences simply no longer arise. The peace that is the nature of our being is equally present in both activity and inactivity, and therefore it has no preferences for either. In the absence of any distinction between activity and inactivity, we cannot even call it peace. Thus, it cannot be defined by words or restrained by any law. One who is in touch with the peace of their essential being no longer negotiates experience from the vantage point of a separate self. Such a one is free. Our essential being is like empty space. Nothing leaves a trace on it, nor does it hold on to anything. For one who is established in their true nature, Thoughts and feelings add nothing to their self, nor remove anything from it, and thus they begin to quiet down. Everything simply is as it is. In reality, there is no separate subject or object of experience. There is no self and no other. This absence of otherness is love itself, from which nothing is separate and nothing excluded. The recognition of one's true nature is independent of the content of experience. In this recognition, the relative value of things in time and space, whilst remaining, is outshone. At every moment, experience is always a single, infinite, and indivisible whole, for all such definitions would refer to parts of the whole. Wherever we look, it is all a manifestation of the same impersonal, infinite, intimate reality, which admits no boundaries, distinctions, or differences. This reality cannot be debated by the finite mind. It assumes the names and forms of 10,000 things without ever being, becoming, or knowing anything other than itself. To understand and feel this is to live a life of peace and joy. It is the origin, the path, and the goal of the non-dual understanding. It cannot be spoken of, and yet all words speak of it. There is no path to it, because it is that alone which is always and already present. Turn towards that, and it will take you into itself. Wrong. Now that's really difficult. And if you can get like one phrase out of that, then you're doing well. And it's not a really good thing to read out loud because it's so complex. But I just thought I'd tempt you because it's the kind of literature I find, again, very stimulating because I don't understand it. And when I don't understand something, what's he pointing to? Like Luangpor Cha's stillness flowing. That's a really cool phrase. Stillness flowing. As opposed to the very, very obvious things that we like.